Hey, how's it going, guys? We're back with another OBF video reaction. This time we're doing why Europe is insanely well designed. The most recent one I did on this one was why the Netherlands is insanely well designed. So I came across this one. The original video was posted just a few days ago. So I saw it and I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'll do that one as well. And so, yeah, links to the original video will be in the description section down below. As always, make sure you go down there, check it out, give the original creator some love, and go like the original video. Drop a like on there. Watch this video, of course, first, and then go do that. But anyways, we're going to check it out, find out why Europe is insanely well designed right now.
This is a map of Europe's mass transit railway system across 33 countries. The yellow lines indicate the presence of a train line, and as you can see, it's very dense. There are hardly any spaces where there isn't any coverage for railways. Now, if we compare this to a map of railroad tracks in the US, it's a different story.
Pretty bare.
While parts of the US have some good mass transit, there are large areas of the country which isn't covered by Amtrak, the nation's largest passenger railroad service. But let me show you another map, this time of high-speed rail in Europe. Now obviously, high-speed railways aren't going to be as common as regular speed railways as they require excellent design, strict planning, and massive investment. And yet, as we can see, high-speed rail is present in Europe, which is a stark contrast to the US, as you can see from this map. While the US does have some higher speed rail, like the Aquila line in the northeast,
it's pretty few and far between, though. It's not just a common thing that you find everywhere. Maybe in some of the big cities, like it showed, you can get from one city to the next, but if you're out in the rural areas, not so much.
corridor, it's hardly an effective map of transport solutions. And the Aquila line isn't really that fast either. It can reach about 150 miles per hour, but averages less than 70. This is not the case for Europe's insanely well-designed railroad system. And you have to remember that Europe's system accomplishes this while spanning 33 different nations in a very diverse continent. And I know what you're probably thinking. This is just because Europe is smaller than the United States, which simply isn't true. While the European Union is smaller than the US, continental Europe has an area that is about 1.04 times as much as the US. So we can dismiss this argument that the United States can't be that well designed because it's too big. Europe simply is better designed. But if you're American, you might not understand why railroad tracks or public transport as a whole is so important.
It does bring up an interesting point that 33 different nations or something, right? That's a lot of different countries, and they're able to make it work in what is actually a continental, like landmass, bigger area than what we even have here. So, and here it's supposed to be the same country. You got different states and stuff, but it's all ruled by the same government. So, yeah, there's really should be no excuse, right?
Might not understand why railroad tracks or public transport as a whole is so important. I mean, driving a car works fine, right? Well, no, and Europe showcases why a primary focus on private transportation is so detrimental to a well-functioning transit system.
Yeah, actually I did a reaction on some Not Just Bikes videos. If you guys want to check that out, you'll be able to find them on my channel, and some of them are talking about how it's actually better for drivers over there. Just the way that it's designed and stuff. Interesting though, but you should be able to find that video if you're interested.
Look at these maps. They show the US road network versus the EU's. And as you can see, the EU's road network is not nearly as impressive as the US's. And yet, when you look at some of the most congested cities in the world, European countries don't feature particularly prominently in the global rankings. This is pretty shocking information because you'd assume that the country with a more expansive road network has a lot less congestion, especially considering the United States has devoted lots of time and money to their highways. So how come Europe is less congested when they have fewer roads? Well, it all comes down to disincentivizing the use of cars and, most importantly, making an attractive alternative. Europe does this by having both private and public transportation infrastructure, which technically the US has as well, it's just a lot worse. But on top of this, Europe makes it pretty expensive to buy, own, and use a car. This is achieved by having high taxes on vehicles and gasoline. In fact, here's a map of worldwide gasoline prices. As you can see, European nations are in the top rankings, while the US lies at the bottom, charging very little.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That's why there's so many cars here, which leads to more congestion. Also, the way the roads in the cities in the United States are designed is terrible. I did some videos also, not just bikes, covered that topic as well, and how in Europe and like the Netherlands specifically, stop signs are few and far between, and it leads to safer roads. So if you're interested in that, go check that video out. I suggest you do. I mean, it's not it's a cool video. So yeah, this is a lot like this is very similar to that. So or at least the topics that he's exploring.
But let me be very clear, it's only a good idea to make it expensive to drive a car if you have an attractive alternative, which America doesn't, but Europe does. I mean, obviously this wouldn't work in the US with its current transportation infrastructure, but in Europe, this is a great strategy because you make the roads less congested for those who actually need them and give everyone else an affordable and efficient alternative, being Europe's amazing public transport like the trains on the railways. This is arguably the better strategy because even though the vast majority of Americans have access to vehicles at around 91% and gas is comparatively cheap, it still leaves 9% who don't have access to vehicles. What are these people who can't afford a car supposed to do? I mean, sometimes public transport isn't even an option or simply too expensive for me.
Yeah, and what I was saying earlier, like in a lot of rural places, like small place, like where I live, there's only like 6,000 people. Public transportation is pretty much non-existent unless you want to go through this thing and like set it up like on a monthly basis. You give them a schedule, like so if you're going to work and back, I guess, you know, but it's not like, oh, I want to go here, come pick me up. They don't really have that too much. Sometimes maybe you can get like Uber or whatever, but there's even few people that drive that, you know, Uber around here. So yeah, it's not that good.
Money. So you've now actively excluded those who aren't exactly the most well off from society. To make matters worse, some US cities actually got rid of their public transport to make room for more cars. I'm not joking. American streetcars like trams were actually removed to make way for bigger roads. Absolutely insane. Compare that to Oslo, Berlin, and Madrid, where discussions are underway to restrict or even exclude most cars from the city center. And let's not forget that when you have cars, you also need somewhere to park them. And this is where things start to become rather ridiculous. You see, the United States has 2 billion parking spaces.
Everything's too spread out, and the parking places and the parking lots makes it worse.
For 250 million cars. That's 8 parking spaces per vehicle. In Europe, it's pretty much a 1-to-1 with around 250 million public parking spaces for 300 million cars. But to emphasize the ridiculousness of this even further, the area that the US dedicates for car parking is actually larger than the area dedicated for housing people. It's honestly unbelievable that
we're going to listen to that again. That is nuts.
Of this even further. The area that the US dedicates for car parking is actually larger than the area dedicated for housing people. It's honestly unbelievable that people are being squeezed out of American cities due to regulators wanting to make more room for parking spaces.
Man.
This simply wouldn't fly in the EU, as it has a whole policy dedicated to improving urban planning. See, the EU spent 115 billion euros between 2014 and 2020 to improve city design by making it smarter, greener, and more connected. Simply meaning they allocated funds to make their cities more efficient, more connected, and better for the environment.
Nice.
And better for the environment they really are, as the average resident in a typical Western US city, such as Los Angeles or Phoenix, contributes approximately 6 times more carbon to the atmosphere per capita than an average European city resident.
Yeah,
this is
good.
Purely the result of not having effective transport solutions, which saves resources and allows people to move about efficiently. And exactly that, moving about efficiently, is something most of Europe's citizens are able to do as a result of the European Union.
Yeah, and things are just a lot more efficient in general there. Yeah, yeah, go check it out, guys.
See, most of Europe's nations are in the European Union, which gives the EU citizens a number of perks, which includes a free travel area. This has been one of the most important achievements of the EU, as it makes it possible for an EU citizen to travel freely to other EU member states and stay for up to 3 months. All they need is a passport or even just an ID card. No visas, no trips to embassies, no form filing, just head straight over. This makes it incredibly easy to travel, study, and work in other countries and communities, and having this level of centralization is very important to good design, as it gives the smartest people the opportunity to work where they are most useful. And since good design obviously requires a lot of complicated problem solving and planning, this is very smart. Another smart thing is the incredible biking infrastructure we see in Europe.
Netherlands in specific, like what I keep saying, not just bikes, it just keeps reminding me of it though. But yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of videos on that talking about the bikes, the infrastructure being a lot better, how it's safer. You can actually get around a lot faster around town normally on a bike than a car. So go check those videos out, guys. They're really good.
Perfectly illustrated by this map of bike path density in Europe. All the purple lines are bike paths, and there's clearly a lot of them, especially towards the left side of the map, but that's just because this is the home of the Dutch, the Netherlands.
As I was just saying.
Now, the funny thing is, I won't be able to compare this to a map of bike path density in the United States, because such a map hasn't been made. At least I wasn't able to find any, and I can only wonder why. But anyway, what Europe and also the European Union has achieved is pretty remarkable, as it's hard to think of another set of such diverse countries where you would be able to travel so freely, in an efficient and inexpensive manner. I mean, you can literally get from Paris to Amsterdam, for example, in just 3 hours for around $30.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I've been wanting to move to Europe, me and my girlfriend, and I want to kind of, I'm not sure, I want to kind of maybe go to like the southern part of the Netherlands between Belgium and Germany, or, but either way, like this is it's crazy. You can go to another country, 3 hours, $30, 30, or 30 euros. It's not very costly at all. So for traveling, seeing the world, it'd be amazing. I can't wait. Can't wait till I can actually do that one day.
Imagine being able to travel all over Asia without any border crossings, checks, or visas, and being able to stay for months at a time. That would be truly amazing. And let's not forget that European design has always been distinctive and very successful. In fact, the continent's history of design and interconnectedness serves as a model for the rest of the world. But even though Europe and the EU are pretty great and have amazing infrastructure, they obviously aren't perfect. And I'd love to hear some of the reasons it might not be, so leave a comment down below if you have some thoughts on this. But that's it for this video, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Interesting. Yeah, leave those thoughts down below. I'm kind of curious on that as well. Do you have any ways that you know that it's not that good in Europe? Is it worse in certain areas? That'd be something interesting. Maybe I can explore that in a video reaction sometime as well. In the meantime, you guys hit like, hit subscribe, and have a super fun, awesome day. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.